we're not just talking about a crime here. This is a story about the ultimate price of free speech and what happens when someone dares to speak out and is silenced forever. So picture this. It's 2 a.m. in Kampala, Uganda. The city's asleep, everything's quiet. But something is about to happen. Something that's going to send shockwaves way, way beyond these city streets.
And this quote, man, it just says it all, doesn't it? A voice of dissent was extinguished on these streets. Think about that for a second. It wasn't just a person who was murdered. It was the ideas he stood for. That was the real target.
So let's get into the specifics. On November 30th, 2011, a journalist was murdered, far from his home. He had fled his country looking for safety, right? He was an exile, a refugee. But as it turns out, he was never really safe. He was still a target.
Okay, so to really get why this happened, we have to ask, who was this man? Who was Charles Ingabire? And what on earth was he writing that was so dangerous it got him killed?
Well, Charles Ingabire was a Rwandan journalist. He was the editor of a news site, Inyenyeri News, and he was a very outspoken critic of the Rwandan government. He'd actually been living in exile in Uganda since 2007, thinking he'd be safe there.
And you have to understand, Inyenyeri News wasn't just some small blog. It was a big deal. Why? Because it published in Kinyarwanda. That means it was speaking directly to people back in Rwanda, in their own language. It was this powerful online voice for dissent, and it absolutely did not hold back when it came to criticizing the government.
You see, for a lot of people, Uganda was supposed to be a safe place, a place with a bit more freedom. But as one source put it, critical voices walk a dangerous line. That safety, it was pretty much an illusion. The danger that Ingabire was running from, it just followed him right across the border.
And here's what's absolutely crucial to understand. His murder was not random. Not at all. It was the final, terrifying step in a long, calculated campaign of intimidation. The goal was simple, to shut him up for good.
And this campaign, it just kept escalating. First, it was online harassment, messages demanding he shut down his website. When he didn't, things got physical. He was actually attacked in Kampala, they stole his laptop, his most important tool, and flat out told him to stop reporting. And then came the death threat.
Just listen to what his friend, Innocent Kalisa, said. He described how cautious Charles had become, changing his routes, staying away from crowds. He wouldn't even tell his closest friends where he lived. Can you imagine that? He was living in constant fear. He wasn't just a journalist anymore. He was a hunted man.
So that brings us to the murder itself and the investigation that followed. Now, you'd think an investigation would bring answers, right? But in this case, it just led to more questions. It created this void, this vacuum of justice that, honestly, is still there today.
Just think about this one detail from the crime scene. 5. The police found 5 cartridges from a submachine gun. That one number tells you so much. This wasn't some robbery gone wrong. No way. This was a professional hit, an execution. Which leads us to the biggest question of all, the one that still haunts this entire case. Who ordered the killing? I mean, sure, someone pulled the trigger, but that's just a small part of it. The real mystery is, who was behind it all? Who wanted him dead so badly? And when you look at the investigation, you see 2 totally different stories. On one hand, you have the official Ugandan investigation. They questioned a couple of people, but officially, the motive is listed as unknown. But then you talk to advocates and human rights groups, and for them, the motive couldn't be more obvious. His murder perfectly fits this pattern of targeting critics. And that, of course, casts a huge shadow of suspicion on political actors.
So, at the end of the day, the central mystery is still there. Who is really behind the assassination? The case remains unsolved. The people who planned it, they've never faced any consequences.
Okay, so you might be thinking, this happened over a decade ago. Why are we still talking about it? Well, it's because this single murder is also a global warning. Charles Ingabire's story matters because it's this chilling reminder of just how vulnerable people are when they dare to speak truth to power.
Yeah, his murder absolutely did not happen in a vacuum. It wasn't some isolated incident. It was, and still is, a symptom of a really disturbing trend that we see all over the world. The targeting of journalists and critics.
What a murder like this does is create a climate of fear. It sends a message, loud and clear, to other critics in the region. You are not safe. And it's not just a feeling. Groups like the Committee to Protect Journalists have documented this stuff. It's a real pattern. Being in exile, even in a country with press freedom, doesn't guarantee your safety. And his death, understandably, drew massive condemnation from human rights groups worldwide.
So getting justice here, it's about more than just solving this one case. It's about ensuring safety for all journalists. It's about a much bigger fight to create a world where no one should have to risk their life just to do their job and report the truth.
And that leaves us with a really tough question. In a world where information is power, how do we protect freedom of expression from threats and intimidation? Charles Ingabire's voice was silenced, yeah, but the issues his death brought to light are louder today than ever. So I'll leave you with this. What's it going to take to protect the people who risk absolutely everything to tell us the truth?